Hello, and welcome to this online training webinar for foster care, placement, and how to prepare for your foster child. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, an adoptive and biological and foster parent of over a decade, and over 40 plus children have come through my home. This is a can be time of anxiety, time of excitement, time of curiosity for not only yourself, but for all those involved. So let's find out how we can make the placement the best for all involved. Now there's a picture of my family. I've adopted 3 children from foster care. I have 3 biological children. But you know what? What you don't see there is all my children. For you see, every child that comes into my home becomes my family. I love each child unconditionally. In my home, there is no label. There is no label between biological, foster, or adoptive. They are all my children, and I call them all by love. Unfortunately, I can't show you all those pictures now, can I? But I think you get the picture there, so to speak, right? So today our goal is to increase the awareness of the realities of the stress and trauma a child feels when moving to a foster home, when moving to your home. It is traumatic moving to your home, believe it or not. We're going to increase the awareness of trauma and stress and how it impacts the lives of children in foster care, and you're going to gain an understanding of how to develop and implement strategies designed to aid with those feelings when they move to that brand new home, that scary home, your home. For you see, when a child moves to your home, it is a frightening time. They have left everything they know. They have left behind their mother and their father. However abusive they might have been, they've left them. They've left behind perhaps some siblings, their stuffed animals, their toys, their house, their home, their relatives, grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles, cousins, their schoolmates, their neighborhood, their teachers, maybe their church, everything they've left. And they come to a strange place with strange people and told, this is your new house, this is your new home, this is your family. No, you can't go see mommy and daddy. And they have those questions. They have those questions like, when will I see my mommy? And you don't know. When will I go home? And you don't know. Why am I here? What do you say to those questions? They say, I want my mommy. And they cry themselves to sleep. And they say, I want to go home. And they bury themselves in the pillow. They say, I don't want to be here. And they lash out in frustration. That's very normal. It's a time of great anxiety. It might be a time of excitement for you and your family. Perhaps it's your first placement. Perhaps this is your 5th or 15th placement. It's an exciting time for you. And you have questions. And you might have concerns. Believe me, the child has questions. The child has concerns. And most likely, the child has fears. Fears. You might have concerns if you can be the proper family for this child. You might have the concern if you can meet their needs. You might have concerns if they can get along with the other children in your home. But their concerns are, will they go home? When will they see their mother next? Who are these people they're now living with? So for you to best prepare, this is what you need. You need as much background information as you possibly can about the child before they come into your home. When the phone rings at our house and we get the call, you know what the call is, the call to take in a child, I have a list of questions for the caseworker. I want to educate myself as much as I can before the child even comes in my home about the child. I'm going to ask such questions like, how long will the child be here? Why is the child in care? How old is the child? Has the child suffered from any type of abuse? Does the child have special needs? See, I want to know those things because I want to know if my family is the best placement beforehand. I want to gather as much information as I possibly can from the caseworker. Now keep this in mind. The caseworker may not know the answers to your questions. You might get the call like I got our very first call, 10:30 at night. The caseworker swept into a home, grabbed two girls with the police behind them, and she did not have much information about the two girls. My wife and I were just excited that it was our first placement. Gather as much information as you can because you need to ensure that your home is the best home, because sometimes you might not be able to meet the needs of the child. Recently, my wife and I had a phone call. We had the call about a 17-year-old girl with a 7-month-old baby. Now, we had to say no to that phone call. We had to say no to that phone call because it was a summertime. I was staying at home with my own children. My wife was at work during the weekdays. I could not place myself in an environment, in a situation, where a foster child of ours had been sexually active, because what if she had made false accusations against myself? So with heavy heart, I said no to the placement. I found the information beforehand, gathered the information, and made the decision that it was best for all if my wife and I did not take that child, to protect both the child and my family. That is the type of information that you need. Can you take care of the child? Does the child have special needs, medical needs that you can or cannot attend to? Those are some of the things you need to know. So you might want to ask, how old is the child? When my wife and I first became foster parents, we made the rule that we were not going to take any care of any child that was older than our own biological children's. That lasted a few years, but we kept to it for a while. Why is a child in care? This is a question you might want to ask your caseworker. How long might the child stay with you? Now, I know, if you read my book, Fostering Love, my second placement, we were told it would just be for the weekend. That weekend lasted a year and a half. I'm glad it lasted a year and a half. She became a very, very loved member of our family. But nevertheless, I wanted to know how long the child would stay with us. You need to know that question because you might have plans. Perhaps you're moving in a year. Perhaps you're getting ready for a wedding of a child. Maybe your oldest child is going off to college. And you need to know if you can continue to care for the child during those times of great activity. Will the child need daycare supervision? This is a very important question if both you and your spouse are working. Because if you're both working outside of the house and you have a young child, say 2 or 3 years of age, who will take care of this child? This is a question you need to ask immediately from your supervisor when the caseworker calls you, so you can say yes or no. Does the child have any learning disabilities or special needs of any kind that you and your family can or cannot meet? Does the child have any anger management or extreme emotional issues that you need to be aware of? Perhaps your family is not ready at this time to take in a child that has anger control issues or emotional issues that are of the extreme. Perhaps you're just reeling from having a child in your home that had these and you need some time off. Is this the first time the child has been in foster care? This is a great question to ask your caseworker because this is going to go a long ways in how your child adjusts to your home. Perhaps this is their first time and they're filled with great fear and anxiety. Perhaps they've been through 20 homes and they're having attachment issues. Is the child's medical shots up to date? Are there any medical concerns? A few years back, we had 3 boys come into our home, ages 10, 9, and 7. All 3 of them were dreadfully behind in their medical shots, and they all had medical needs. The next day after they came to our home on a Sunday evening. The next day was a Monday. I had to take off the day off of work, take these 3 boys to get them all up to date with their shots and get them their prescribed medicines that they needed. You may have to do the same. Is the child from the same town is another question you might want to ask. Does the child need to be enrolled in your local school system? Again, you're probably like me, where I have had to take time off of work and enroll children into the school system in our area. And that can be a very, very exhausting time. when you're trying to track down transcripts and school records and filling out, oh my goodness, all that paperwork, right? Does the child have clothes? How many times have you had children come to your home late at night when they're wearing just the clothes on their back? It's happened far too frequently for my wife and I imagine it's happened for you as well. And then how about those late nights when a baby comes to your house and you have no diapers and baby wipes? So when the phone call comes about the child in need, ask that question. Does the child have clothes? Will you need to run out and buy some diapers and baby wipes real quick at that 24-hour store that's somewhere closely, hopefully closely by your own home before the child was placed into your house? I recall a time when we had a 7-week-old baby come to our house. We got the phone call, got the information about the child, and then I live 35 minutes away from a 24-hour chain store, and what did I do? I jumped in the car, ran to that store, bought some diapers, bottles, baby wipes, some baby clothes real fast, and then drove back home just in time to meet the caseworker as she drove up. When a child is placed into your home, there are sure to be changes in the family dynamics. Absolutely. Whether you have children or not, whether you are single or married, there are going to be changes in the dynamics of your family. Perhaps you have children of your own. Well, your children will be getting some foster siblings, some siblings. You need to sit down and talk about the changes with your members of your family, with your children, with your spouse. How are these family dynamics going to change? And how do they feel about this? What type of concerns do they have? Reassure your family members that you are still going to be there for them, that you're still going to love them, that all's going to be well, that you need their support, and that you're going to rely upon them in some ways during this time of great transition, of great change. Again, reassure your children that you are still going to be their mom and their dad. A few years back, I recall one of my daughters was 3 years old at the time, and we had a 4-year-old girl come into our home, and there was a little bit of sibling rivalry, if you will. For the 4-year-old girl called me dad straight away, and my 3-year-old daughter couldn't really understand why this girl was calling her daddy, daddy. So my 3-year-old kept insisting, no, that's my daddy. And the 4-year-old would say, that's my daddy. And my 3-year-old would say, that's my daddy. And back and forth it would go for the first few weeks. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. I had to sit down many a time and reassure my 3-year-old daughter in words that she could understand that I was still her daddy. When a child's placed into your home, remember your own family members. Remember your own spouse. Indeed, we talk about this in one of my online training webinars about marriage. You must make time for your marriage. Because if you do not, if you pay all the attention you have and give all of your attention, all of your focus, and all of your love to the child that is in great need in your home, that's going to hurt your own family. That's going to hurt your own marriage. And you simply cannot afford to do that. So make sure that you give particular attention, specific attention to members of your own family, your own children, your own spouse. Perhaps take one of your children out to a movie or out to dinner, out to ice cream. Maybe go around, play sports with them, or go around the park, walk around the neighborhood. Do the same thing with your spouse. Perhaps go to a movie, get respite care for an evening, whatever it may be, but give attention to your own family. So the big day comes, and you get that first phone call, or you get that 25th phone call, or the 50th phone call, whatever it may be, and it's a child out there in need, and you've got to make sure your house is ready. Have a checklist ready by the phone or in your purse or whatever it may be. These are some things you need to have ready for them. An alarm clock, a baby crib and mattress. Don't forget those baby bottles. A bed for older children made up with an extra blanket if needed. And make sure that bed looks appealing and comfy, won't you? Pillows all, fluffed and plucked. A brush and a hair comb. Oh, goodness, car seats. How many times have you had to get car seats for small children? A closet space for the older children and extra hangers for them. Don't let them have their clothes in a suitcase or in a pile on the floor. Get them a closet if you can, or a dresser drawer to make them feel like they are at home. Had those diapers and baby wipes ready. There you go, a dresser or cabinet for older children's clothes. Make sure the electrical outlets are all covered up for the small children, and then all exposed wires are taken care of. An extra seat at the kitchen table is a priority. In no way should your foster child be sitting apart from your family at dinner time just because you don't have an extra seat at the table. Let's say you are a family of 4, you, your spouse, and 2 children, and your table only accompanies 4 seats. Well, guess what? You need to make room for a 5th one, because when that child comes into your home, he needs to sit at the table with you and your family because he is a member of your family. He is now your child. And if you send him a signal otherwise by putting him someplace else, that's a strong signal to him that he is not valued, that he's not important enough to sit at your table, and that you don't consider him a family member. If this means you sitting someplace else, then so be it. But he needs to be sitting at the table with the family. Now, my wife and I had 11 children in our house recently. Plus my wife and I made 13. I don't know of any table that's big enough for 13. But you know what? We pulled up chairs and we scooted ourselves around that table. And sometimes when we had visitors over, I had to stand up eating. But I stood up right by the table though. Make sure there's a fire extinguisher on every house floor and at every level of the house. Make sure that fire extinguisher is someplace that you can get it. For my house, I have one right next to my bed. Make sure the kitchen cleaning items are out of reach. Right now I've got a 1-year-old child and he's like a human tornado. He's learned to run, not walk, but run. And he is into everything. And boy, oh boy, he would love to get his hands on some kitchen cleaning items, I bet. We have to make sure that they're always out of reach for him. Make sure light fixtures are working properly in all the rooms, and there's a night light in the bedroom and the nearby bathroom. Now, picture this. Picture that 7-year-old girl coming to sleep in your house that first night, and she is very, very scared. Very, very scared. And she has cried herself to sleep. In the middle of the night, she wakes up, and she needs to use the restroom, the bathroom. But she doesn't know where it is. Perhaps you showed it to her on a family tour of the house. But it's dark. It's nighttime. Make sure there's a nightlight in there for her. Make sure all medicines are out of reach, and that there's a mirror for the older children. Soap, shampoo, conditioner, and toilet paper are all a must. This should be in your checklist. And make sure you have toothpaste and toothbrush, and of course, towels for the children. These are just some of the things you need to have on your checklist every time a child comes into your home. So when the child first comes to your home, remember they are in a state of anxiety. They're in a state of fear. They may be in a state of denial. Perhaps they are in a state of anger, frustration. They are in a state of tremendous emotional upheaval. Remember that, keep that in mind, and remind your other members of the family that these children may not be very receptive to you when they come to your home, or they may be very, very quiet, very, very withdrawn, because they are afraid. So the first impression you create is very, very important. You must meet them with patience, you must meet them with compassion, and you must meet them with love. Be very, very understanding of how they're feeling. Be very, very compassionate about their emotional state. And try to give a sense of love to them immediately. This patience, this compassion, this love will go a long ways in easing just some of the anxieties that they are surely facing when they come to your house for the very, very first time, when they leave their family or they leave their previous home. I've had some foster parents tell me this. Dr. John, my foster children will not call me mommy or daddy. Why is that? I don't like that question. You should never, ever insist that your children from foster care call you mom or dad. Indeed, I spoke to a foster child who came to our house, a 17-year-old girl, whose previous foster parents insisted the very, very first day that they call them mom and dad. That is just a big no. Absolutely not. Do not insist that they call you mom and dad. Do not insist they call you much of anything. In our house, we allow them to call us, my wife and I, what they feel comfortable with. For some, it's Mr. John and Miss Kelly. For others, it's Dr. John. For some, it's Uncle John. For some, Daddy John. For some, Daddy. For some, other names. We never allow them to call us, dirty names like jerk or smelly pants or funny face, whatever it may be. You know how it is. But don't insist they call you anything in particular. Just encourage them to call you what they feel comfortable with. When my wife and I go out to meet the child for the first time, we say, "Hi, my name is Mr. John," and my wife says, "I'm Miss Kelly." And then from there, if they feel comfortable calling us something else, that's perfectly fine. When they come to your house for the first time, give them a tour of your home. And that tour should always end with their bedroom. Do not overwhelm the child right away with new rules and discipline matters and how you run the house, do's and don'ts. Don't do that right away. Instead, just give them that tour, allow the child to feel relaxed, maybe bake them some homemade chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk like we do in our house. Perhaps let them play with the other children in your home, or maybe allow them to watch a movie while you do the paperwork with a caseworker. But don't overwhelm them with all these rules and these too much at once. Understand that they are afraid and they're concerned and they're in fear and they're filled with anxiety. They're going to have questions for you, most likely. Those questions might be, why am I here? How long will I be here? When do I see mommy next? When do I go home? Answer those questions as openly and honestly as you can. Now I know that many times those answers will be, I don't know. When do I go home? Sweetheart, I'm sorry, I don't know. When will I see mommy next? Honey, I just don't know. How long will I be here? Honey, I just don't know. Be honest with them. At the same time, say to them something like this. I don't know how long you'll be here, but I'm glad you're with us. Honey, I don't know when you'll see your mommy next, but when you do, I'm sure she'll be excited to see you. Say things like that, and then say something like this. In the meantime, would you please live with us for a while? That's what we say to our children. And read to them. Oh my goodness, not enough children in foster care have been read to. They most likely have come from an environment where nobody has read to them. And this might explain part of the reason why 55% of children in foster care will drop out of high school at some point. Education has not been a priority in their life. Read to them often. Read to them daily if you can. Those first few days, be very, very patient. They need patience from you. They're going to have emotional outbursts, or they might not. They might withdraw. You might think the child's doing great, but I imagine inside they are a hurricane of emotions swirling inside them, emotions they can't understand or process. They're trying to process the emotions inside. They're trying to process what happened to them. They're trying to figure out why they are in your home. They're trying to deal with the grief they might have. They might believe it's their fault. They just don't know. So if they lash out in anger or frustration, don't take it personally. If they yell, scream at you, or curse and swear at you, or call you names, again, don't take it personally. If they refuse to do something that you ask them to do, don't take it personally. If they don't come to you when you call them, or they just simply don't answer because they're withdrawing, don't take it personally. They are trying to process. So again, they need time and they need patience from you. So after the first few days have gone by, then sit down and discuss the rules and expectations of your home. because your home does have rules and expectations. And I would gather that your rules and your expectations are very different from the ones they've come from. Indeed, they might be several of the foster children who have come to my home who have never had any type of rules or expectations from the family they lived with. So your house is going to be very different to them, and your rules and expectations are going to seem very, very foreign, very, very strange to them. They may not understand them. So discuss them and tell them that you expect them to follow those rules, and there will be consequences of those rules if they should choose to break them, just like with your own children. But I cannot stress enough, there is no physical, there's no spanking, there's no physical harm for the children, no physical discipline. You know that. Listen to them those first few days. Again, they're full of questions. Part of their healing process is talking, is releasing some of their anxieties, releasing some of their emotions. They may want to tell you some gruesome horror stories. They may want to tell you stories that keep you up at night. Allow them. Allow them to do that. Allow them to do that. Because that's part of their healing. They need someone to listen to them without judging. Don't judge their biological parents. Don't judge the people they live with beforehand. Don't judge them. Don't judge the children. Just listen. Spend time with them. Get to know the child. Get to know their likes and their dislikes. Get to know their hobbies. Get to know their fears and concerns. Listen to them about their hopes for the future. Again, do not judge their biological family. And encourage pictures. If they have pictures of their birth family members, maybe their mother, their father, or their grandparents, or some siblings, whatever it may be, encourage them to put the pictures up. Maybe they want to put some pictures up in their bedroom. You know what? That's okay, because you are not their family. You're not in their eyes, at least not at first, not during those first few days. Remember, they don't want to be with you. They want to go back home. So if they want to put pictures up, that's okay. Allow the child to observe how your family functions. How does your family observe dinner time? How does your family observe bedtime? How does your family function before school and after school? Encourage them to participate in all family functions. For our children from foster care, they blend right in with our own biological and adoptive children, to all of our children in general, because they're all the children, no labels. So they all take part in chores. They clean the table, they clean the dishes, they do laundry, they clean up after themselves, just like all the children in the home. And that helps them to feel as if they're part of the family. It helps them to feel normal, and they need that. And most importantly, allow them time to grieve. If they're crying every single night for months, that's all right. They're grieving, and they're healing. They need you to give them that time. They need you to understand. They need you to give them time. You need to give them time to understand what's going on. You need to give them time to adjust to the new home and new school and new family members. You need to give them time to learn how to laugh and to play. You need to give them time to learn how to be cared for and to be loved. This might be the first family that allows them to laugh and to play. This might be the first family who cares for them and loves them. You are changing the life of a child. You're providing a home. You're providing a family. You're providing love to a child. And those gifts are immeasurable. For more information, visit my website, and on my website you'll find lots of information about this and everything else, including my Facebook page. You'll see lots of tips, statistics, information, resources. There's my email address. If you have questions about this or other things, I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you. The Foster Parenting Manual, a practical guide to creating a loving, safe, and stable home, has a chapter devoted simply to this topic. And in that chapter, you'll see a full-length checklist of what you should have for your child when they first come to your home, as well as all those questions. And we go into much, much more detail about this very, very topic. Check the book out. And of course, I have other books as well. Hey, my friend, thank you so much for being part of this online training webinar. Don't forget to send me that check to my address so you can get So you can get a signed certificate from me, or go to my website and put in your credit card number. I want to make sure you get that signed certificate from me in the mail. More importantly, thank you for what you do. You're changing the life of a child, and you are changing the world. I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.